Welcome to GrassRoot Ohio, conversations with everyday people working on important issues here in Columbus and all around Ohio. I'm Carolyn Harding, and today I'm talking with Christopher Austin, fellow activist, artist, and colleague. Christopher Austin graduated from Otterbein University with a major in theater and received his master's degree in Pastoral and Professional Counseling from Methodist Theological School. He has received awards for his theatrical performances and completed his first feature film, Things Are Tough All Over, directed by local filmmaker Chris Bournea. Christopher has worked in the field of counseling and social work for 6 years and has received recognition and awards for his work in the field. He is active in the Columbus community with the goal of helping people find their voice of empowerment through the arts, volunteering in religious and community outreach, and social activism. In June 2020, I interviewed Christopher, on GrassRoot Ohio. His petition to take down the Christopher Columbus statue in front of the Columbus City Hall was the straw that broke the camel's back after years of activists working to bring this symbol of trauma down. But I first got to know Chris from our other shared world, the arts. In November 2012, we were both in a theatrical production of To Kill a Mockingbird, directed by Mark Mann. Chris played the role of Tom Robbins, the man falsely accused and convicted of rape by a white woman. I played Miss Stephanie, the nosy neighbor of Atticus Finch, white, privileged, complicit, racist. In July 2019, Chris was cast as the lead character in the movie Things Are Tough All Over, an independent feature filmed by Chris Bournea. And I was cast as the school principal, this time an ally. 2 months ago, Chris asked me if he could interview me for GrassRoot Ohio. I was taken back, a bit flummoxed with everything else going on in our world, but I said yes to Chris, and so here we are. This is Christopher Austin's show, and I am now in the hot seat. Take it away, Chris.
Is it hot yet?
Well, it'll get there.
I appreciate your words. I was just thinking back to I think you said 2012 for To Kill a Mockingbird. That was such an important show for me because I was actually in grad school for pastoral and professional counseling at the time. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to manage going to school full time and everything else going on in life and do this show. But I stepped out, and that was a return to the stage for me after many years of not having any art acting wise. And I'm so glad that I took that opportunity, and you were always very, very encouraging of me throughout that process. So I wanted to say, if I hadn't said thank you already, I want to make sure I do tell you thank you, because I do remember that. You're always very encouraging of that. And it surprises me not a bit that here you are doing this work on the radio waves, on YouTube, getting your voice out there, lifting people up and encouraging people. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be able to interview you, because that's something that's always impressed me about you. There are a lot of issues going on today. There are always a lot of issues going on. And thank God, thank nature, thank yourself, thank whoever, that there are people like you that are calling these things out and working to do them. That is important. So that's not too hot, is it? That's not too hot sitting there, right?
Nope, not yet. I can handle a lot more heat.
I know you can. So something I wanted to ask you was, because I think it's important for people to hear stories. Stories are inspiring, they're encouraging. And something I wanted to ask you was, for other people that may be interested in the arts, and sometimes people get to a certain age and they think, oh, I'm too old, I'll never be able. No, don't count yourself out just yet. But I just wanted to hear, when did you begin your journey in the arts? When did that start for you?
I was around 29 years old. I was living in New York City, and I was just exploring. I moved to New York after I'd lived in Boston for a while, and was first working in publishing and at St. Martin's Press in the art department, believe it or not. And I could barely pay my rent. It was, barely. And so I took a job for a little while. That was back in the 80s when mergers and acquisitions were like really hot. And I thought, well, maybe I should become an MBA, get an MBA. So I got a job at a British bank up in New York, along Central Park near the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I was taking economics, thinking, okay, MBA, and doing okay, but not loving it. And then I took a bus from my Upper West Side apartment down to my job, and I passed the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and there was a shoot, a film shoot going on the front steps of the museum. This huge film shoot, and they were doing an episode from the TV show Fame, not the movie.
Oh wow! Yeah, the TV show. Wow.
Yeah. Let me just turn my shades down real quick.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get the shades down so we can.
I got a lot of sun. Anyway, so I was just immediately drawn, and I got out of the bus, went up to someone with a walkie-talkie, and I said, I would love to do what you're doing. How do I do this?
So was that actually your stop?
Yeah, it was very close to my stop. Yeah,
so you were just completely drawn, like, oh my gosh, what is this? I got to know what's going on. You were just like a magnet pulled to it.
Yeah, I was.
Wow.
And this young guy he says, our production houses are down in Chelsea area. And he gave me a phone number. He said, we're looking for help. So I called, I went down and met them, and I had secretarial experience. I was a great typist, and I got a job as a production assistant, not as an actor, but just a production assistant. It was a huge Hollywood film, and it was shot on the Intrepid, that big boat on the river. It's a military boat. Anyways, it was a wonderful experience, and people kept asking me if I was an actor, because I guess a lot of actors, work as production assistants and things like that. And I said, no, I'm too afraid of that. But then after that job, I got a couple other jobs as a production assistant, and I met Paul Sorvino, who is a really good TV actor and film actor. And Paul told me where he went to school in Manhattan.
So you wait, this is your life, so you can talk about it nonchalantly. You got to meet and speak with Paul Sorvino, the great actor. Many people know him from Goodfellas, and in other works. His daughter is a famous actress as well, Mira Sorvino, and he's talking to you casually about where to go to school for acting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm Carolyn Harding, just hanging out with Paul Sorvino. That's no big deal.
I had to drive him in a van from Manhattan to his home in New Jersey, for a week. We were doing an after school special, and so I had to drive him. So I had a chance to talk with him. So he told me about the Meisner Technique, which I then auditioned for, and after a while, and I was a newbie. I hadn't done high school theater. I was too afraid. I was too shy to be a performer when I was younger. But for some reason, I got accepted into this program, a 2-year professional program, and learned a whole lot. And it was so satisfying. Of course, I had to quit my other job, and then I took on a weekend job so I could pay for my schooling. And
was that scary to make that decision?
Not too much. I have done a lot of different things in my life. In my 20s, I had tried a lot of things, moved around, tried different jobs. I was just exploring. And this one was a real this is good. So then I just committed to 2 years professional training of the Meisner Technique and movement and vocal work.
Right.
And then I finished up and started auditioning. Started getting work, not Broadway. I needed just some regional work and children's theater work. And that's how it got started. And I was older, I was by this time 30.
Most people think about actors starting, very young, either as like children or teens.
Right.
And they don't typically think about the 29-year-old person just kind of being drawn to this because they see fame filming on the street and saying, I got to know what they're doing. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, and then later on, when I moved back here, I started my own production company, and then I did a lot of like original theatrical improvisational stuff. But then when I started having kids, I just taught improv for a while. So that's when I met a lot of older adults who really wanted to get started. And improv was a great way for people to get started. And now in Columbus, there are quite a few actors that got their start in their 40s, in their 50s, starting with improv and jumping into community theater. And I love it. It's never too late. Never.
That's amazing. No, it's not. And I'm glad that you shared that, because in the field of counseling and social work, I run into people all the time who start counting themselves out after they get to a certain age. And I think that there's something very wrong with the society that we live in, where people feel this pressure that they are not useful, or they've lost their value, or they can't be as productive, or even go after their own personal dreams once they get to a certain age. And I think that's something that we definitely need to work on and call out and change. People have value no matter what our age, no matter what our background. And that's just such a cool story. And I'm glad that people in their 40s and 50s are finding out theater is for them, and they're good at it. This is something that I bet they say, I wish I had done this a long time ago.
And they have such a wealth of living and knowledge and depth. And, I just encourage playwrights to write more plays with more older people, because, those stories, especially in community theater all over the country, there are people that want to work, and older people that have raised their kids. Now they have time, And so if to have really great stories about folks that have lived and are still living and wanting to do adventures and romance and everything else. So never too late. Talking about that, Christopher.
Tell you about
Never Too Late.
Yeah.
The film that you starred in with Chris Bournea, picking that small part that I got was the first job I'd taken for a while too, and it got me back into wanting to act again, because I was kind of hardcore activism for about 10 years, primarily on the Columbus Community Bill of Rights, working on protecting our water from
I think I have a technical issue here with the freeze.
for Austin is interviewing me today. We're colleagues, we're fellow activists, and we are also both actors. Chris, are you back?
Yeah, I had I think a digital meltdown on my end or something. It just went kablooey freeze. So, but I'm back.
You knew it was time for a station ID.
So, okay, well, good. I'm glad that we took that. I'm glad that role got you back into it, because I think that there is a huge intersection between art and activism. There always has been. So when did activism become a major role in your life?
It did. I mean, I've always been very social justice conscious, and I've always been a hardcore feminist. But I'd say about 12 years ago, I was needing more than just improv shtick and even theater at that point. I took a job as just a volunteer at All Sides with Ann Fisher, and started doing research for her shows. And she gave me the topic of fracking. And I was blown away when I started reading about it and learning about it. And so much so that I kind of just started focusing on it. And so that came from, being supporting Ann Fisher in her show. I was just a volunteer and I wasn't there that long, but I got that huge gift of researching that project there while I was with her.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
What drew you to volunteer in this radio field with working with Ann?
Well, I've always been an audio listener. I've always enjoyed the radio and listening to news. And so I had a curiosity that maybe I might enjoy doing radio, but I just wanted to find out. I wanted to help out. And one of the early producers of Ann was Linda Taylor, and she was one of my improv students. So, so Linda brought me on as a volunteer. And so everything kind of is connected, Chris, everything is connected. And Linda now is making documentary films, and she's getting awards too. So that's exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, I really wanted to ask you this because I've wondered this, because you've shared about growing up with this presidential figure in your family. And has that been a driving force for you in your activism? Has any of that that family connection with the White House and politics, has any of that been something that has lit a fire in you to change the course of this country and in your community?
I'm sure it's always had some kind of influence, but my personal drive has been seeing a problem and feeling I need to do something to help. And when it came with the fracking, it was the water issue, because water is so basic and so imperative for life. So when I saw this industry taking millions and billions of gallons of fresh water and then rendering it toxic and radioactive, and then it had to be disposed of in injection wells, which are not infallible, and they leak and they can migrate and get into water systems. So that was I don't know, water protection is integral to me. And the feminist, I grew up with a family of 5 daughters and religious family. But I realized that women needed to have choice. So I was always a feminist and reproductive choice advocate. So, but as far as being related to Warren G. Harding, and that was often very uncomfortable and very embarrassing sometimes, because like everybody grew up, he was always considered the worst president of the United States. So you might be kind of like, oh, I'm related to a president, but slam, it's shameful at the same time. So this last fall, there was a big opening of the Harding Memorial Library. So I did a lot of reading, and I really kind of got really clear it's time to shed the shame.
Yeah.
That it's his story and it's not my story. Yes. And I do value the good things that he did bring to the table. And I do value the good things that he was as a person. However, I don't try to slide anything under the rug or try to hide anything, any of the big blunders and failures that he might have had in his life and in his presidency. So it hasn't really helped me, but it still is part of who I am. And I can see how such a fallible human being could become the president of the United States. And my activist work, I go to the State House. I've been going to the State House for quite a long time. And I see all kinds of individuals that are representatives or senators. You have some very deep thinking, very intelligent people. And then you have some folks that are just, doing the best they can. And other folks that are just doing a lot of things that aren't so good for Ohioans. And I see how human they are and how fallible we all are.
Mhm.
And but Ohio needs some help right now, Christopher. I mean, it's really in the clasp of a mindset of very, very conservative right-wing
Yeah.
folks. And it's a little bit frightening for so many areas and so many issues in our state.
One of the things that it angers me and it makes me afraid is the stand your ground laws and that have passed, and the constitutional carry,
Yeah.
and these laws disproportionately affect people of color and women, and it's frightening to me, and it angers me because of this mindset that you're talking about, this grasp and this vice grip against people of our own state. This is like a threat, an all-out threat. Many people read it as a threat to their very lives, knowing that these laws are being passed that solely benefit the people that that pass the laws and their constituents. There is no listening to the people of color or oppressed peoples that will be negatively impacted by these laws. Their voices, when it's heard, it's diminished, or they check it off as, well, yeah, that's typical, that's not a valid reason, and that's one of the major issues I'm thinking of. That's, as you talk about these issues in Ohio, I've been thinking about how to address these things, because it upsets me too. And I know it has to be all of us together raising a voice and making a big thunder about this for this change to take place. What are some of the other issues that you're seeing in Ohio right now that we need to address?
Well, of course, women's reproductive rights are being taken away, and the education, public education. I'm a firm believer in equal quality education for all Ohioan kids, and I am very much not supportive of our government providing funds for religious schools or schools that I'm a supporter of separation of church and state, very much so. I was raised religious, Christian. My husband's raised Jewish. We both are very kind of humanists, and we have friends that are Buddhists, we have friends that are Muslim, we have friends that are atheists, and Ohio is such a beautiful rainbow of beliefs and this adherence to a Judeo-Christian mindset is, I don't think, healthy for all of Ohio. And so education, public education is really important. I really support Medicare for all, making sure there's a single payer, excellent insurance for all. That would help people go do jobs they want to do rather than jobs they do because they have to get insurance. It would prevent people from becoming bankrupt because they have medical issues. So Medicare for all, I would push so hard for. I would support public education, reproductive rights, and let's see, the people that I have interviewed. I mean, Esther Flores working with trafficked women and women that have no support in our community. Then folks that are working with the homeless. I just believe that this wealthy state and country, should be able to take care of our most vulnerable people, and mental health. That's included with the Medicare for all. So
Absolutely.
that's super important to me. And then agriculture, Christopher. Agriculture. We are spreading so many pesticides and herbicides on our food that it's coming back into our food, our bodies, and our health. And I think there's a far better way if we transition to a more regenerative kind of agriculture system. And agriculture is a #1 industry in Ohio. So, and then Intel, this big computer chip company,
Huge, yeah.
20 billion to this area. Well, what about all this water they're going to be using? What's happening with that water? And, although we are blessed with a lot of water right now, the fracking industry has been putting toxic radioactive waste into our watersheds. I mean, this stuff is happening because of jobs or because of money, because of big oil and gas.
Yeah.
So those are my big ones. But mass incarceration.
Yeah.
Oh, all these human beings that are being kept out of living when they could be, many of them and most of them could be retrained and brought back into society. So yeah.
I know we're running low on time, so I wanted to ask you to tell us very quickly about another area where art meets activism and your being in and acting in the Laramie Project.
Oh, okay. Yes. The Laramie Project opens up February 4 at Curtain Players, which is in Galena, Ohio. It's a small little, used to be a church in the middle of a fields. And it's this sweet community theater that's been going for 60 years. Anyways, I knew about the Laramie Project because my son was born in 1997. This happened in 1998 when Matthew Shepard was killed. So it was very, very potent. I remember it profoundly. And this theater company from New York, the Tectonic Theater Company, took several trips, 6 trips to Laramie within the year and a half after this Matthew Shepard's death. And they interviewed over 200 people in the community, people that were directly related and people who were just on the outskirts. And they took these interviews and with writers, and they created a collage of what was happening and why it happened in Laramie, Wyoming. And Matthew Shepard was a young, very small gay man that was outspoken, and he went to a local bar, and he was kidnapped, or he was getting a ride with 2 local young men who ended up severely beating him, tying him to a buck fence, and leaving him basically to die. And he was found, but then he never recovered, and he passed away. And so it was a hate crime combined with all kinds of other things. But he was a young gay man, and he, the perpetrators said he hit on them. And so the story kind of has the point of view of the family members, the actual perpetrators, the community members, and each actor, there's 8 of us, each of us have at least 6 or 7 different characters we're portraying. It's a real ensemble piece, and it's amazing. And our young director is Damon Barrett, and he is doing a great job. And it's a long show, and it's powerful. And well, I have family. We all have family that are in the LGBTQI community. And I just think that raising awareness for tolerance and for love, of all kinds of love. And so I chose to do this show because, Christopher, I choose shows because if they have something for me to say. I mean, I'm not the kind of actor that needs to act all the time. In fact,
I can relate to that personally too. I'm the same way.
Yeah. Oh, our time is almost off. It's almost time. Do you have one more quick question, or shall we wrap?
One more question. Any plans to run for office?
I just did a show on women leading Ohio for women who want to run for the first time. And yes, I am thinking about it, Chris. I am thinking about it. I
am so glad to hear that.
Are you?
And I'm thinking about it too. I did complete Lead Ohio progressive campaign leadership class last year. So okay. it was great. So yeah, I'm seriously looking at it.
All right, Chris. Well, we're out of time, so I've got to wrap up our show. Thank you for this time with you.
Yeah, and thank you. I hope we can have a part 2. There's so many issues there to still bring out.
Okay. You got a deal.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
In addition to our Friday 5 p.m. broadcast on WGRN, GrassRoot Ohio now airs on Sundays at 2 p.m. on WCRS FM and at 4 o'clock in Wheeling, Moundsville, West Virginia. You can also find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks for joining us.